All right. What do you hear me turning down? Where am I? What time is it? What day is it? Is this video 16 months old? No, it's from right now. I was turning down Rebel Yell by Billy Idol. I'm taking a long drive right now. Wow, I'm yelling. I'm taking a long drive and I'm very excited about it. I think. I turned on the radio. I put my Spotify playlist on, you know, my personal one. And you can listen to it. Message me. Send me a message. Call me. Text me. Send me an email. I'll send you a link to it. Maybe I'll put a link in the description below. You could just click it. Wouldn't that be cool? All right, remember to do that. If I don't do that, somebody say so in the comments and I'll fix it. So I started in Free Fallin' by Tom Petty came on, and I was like, oh man, Free Fallin'. Not one of my favorite songs. One of my favorite albums, Full Moon Fever. God, is that album good. The Zombie Zoo is on there. Won't Back Down, I'm not huge on. Love Running Down a Dream. Love his Birds cover of Feel a Whole Lot Better. You're So Bad is great. And I love Tom Petty in general. That's an acquired taste. Everybody, oh, I love Tom Petty because he died. Free Fallin', Full Moon Fever, fine. You know, Full Moon Fever has some of his biggest modern being early to mid 90s hits. I think Full Moon Fever came out in 94, 95. And I gotta say, that's pretty fucking bold, considering he was in the midst of like Nirvana, Soundgarden, Temple of the Dog, and like Tool, Nine Inch Nails, Depeche Mode, like all this really dark, angsty, important, great music was happening. Fucking Tom Petty puts out Full Moon Fever. Go listen to it if you haven't. Oh, I've heard Free Fallin' and Won't Back Down and Running Down a Dream. I know you have. Listen to the rest of it. While you're at it, put on Damn the Torpedoes. It's a really good Tom Petty album. You know, let me tell you about when I Tom Petty things, okay? 40 miles an hour. Come on. In the fucking desert, for Christ's sake. Doesn't make any goddamn sense. Kevin Walter, that was for you. You're probably not listening. Shout out Igor. Shout out my brother. Shout out S87. Shout out Cousin Jeremy. Shout out Cousin Greg. Maybe shout out the Bat. I'd say I'll shout out Trent anyhow, but I don't think he made it this far in the video. Shout out my mom and my dad and my brother and my sister. I think that's probably everybody now. Shout out Ono. Oh my God, I did not forget you, Ono. Don't think that. You know what? Tom Petty. Okay, I'll tell the story. I was listening to an interview with Tom Petty on like NPR or something. I know, something I never do. And Tom Petty was talking about, they were like, when you wrote they were like, first of all, they were like, do you still like playing Free Fallin'? He was like, yeah. And they were like, are you sick of playing it? And did you know something was special with Free Fallin'? And he said, yeah, because they were done in the studio and he took the tape at that time. You have a tape, not a CD, not an MP3. He took the tape home with him and he just kept listening to it over and over again, which you never do. At least he said he never did, because you're fucking working on the song all goddamn day. You don't want to hear it anymore. Free Fallin' was different. So I have taken that and extrapolated that into a thing I call Tom Pettying something, which is exactly that. I wrote a demo and I work on it. I can't stop listening to it. I'm Tom Pettying the shit out of it. I'm still liking it. So after Tom Petty's Free Fallin' was done, which was great, I just paid a little visit to the goats. God, I love goats. I love animals. Such a cliche thing to say, but I really love them, you know. When people have this, like, they're not like humans, people think they're like humans, I always am like, what's going on? Like this lady who's lives in Ivins, where I currently live, not for much longer, she was like talking about the local goat situation. I'm sure you know, if you know me, you know I'm very involved with the local goat situation, and that's not greatest of all time. That's fucking goat, as in the animal. And she was like, yeah, people think they're like humans, like they care about this and that. And I don't want to argue with her because she's a big donor to the goats, and she's also like quite involved and a really good person. But I have to say, with goats, they have hierarchies and they have communities and like ways of communicating and an entire lifestyle that's not really well understood by humans. And that's true of most animals. Sorry, it's true, unless you're a fucking biologist who spends your time studying animals and the way they live and the way they whatever. I'm learning things with my cats all the time. I'm learning new things with them. I really am. Like I was trying to make Pinji like me more. I know that sounds ridiculous, but what does that really mean? It means I was just trying to find things that he likes. I was trying to figure out how to play with him, you know? Trying to get something new. And I think I got it. Anyhow, after Tom Petty, Rebel Yell came on. And, you know, Billy Idol's Rebel Yell. Which is funny, not one of my favorite Billy Idol songs, but certainly a great powerhouse Billy Idol song, right up there with White Wedding and the rest. My personal favorites are more like, God damn it, what's it called? The Seventh Son, The Forgotten Son. It's off that really shitty album with all the drum machines and stuff. God, he had like 2 of those. It's kind of fucked up. It's like they were like, we gotta make a drum machine album because we can, or everybody else is doing. I don't know. It didn't turn out good. Shock to the System's a great song though from that era. And with Billy Idol, I'll just go ahead and say it. Top songs, if you made me pick only 2, I'm gonna go with Rock the Cradle of Love. And it's not just because it's a great song, it's also because I have a childhood connection to it. That was early days of MTV, and the video for Rock the Cradle of Love, the girl was so hot in it, in the most like late 80s, early 90s way, and it had this guy who was kind of like a dork, and I think he spills wine on his shirt at some point. But Rock the Cradle of Love is incredible for all its programmed drumness. It's absolutely incredible. Just this beautiful song that's got a little rockabilly twang in there. It's just great. It's hard to argue with. It just keeps going. And then second to that, maybe on par with that, is Blue Highway, which I have no childhood connection with. I never heard of Blue Highway or Rock the Cradle of Love. I know, but go check them out if you give a shit. Blue Highway is incredible, and I gotta say, though Blue Highway is probably considered a deep cut Billy Idol song, I was at a bar in Nashville, and I don't like a bar in Nashville. You have an idea in your mind, right? You've got a picture of that in your mind. What road is that? Boulder Pass. All right, I thought so. It was like a goth bar. Mutant was playing. Pixel Grip was playing. It was actually a really cool show. Black Plague is what he calls himself, was playing, and he was like the highlight. That motherfucker's incredible. Black Plague. Make sure you check him out. And you gotta see video of it. It's just not the same until you see him like stripped down on stage into a fucking G-string or assless chaps. Okay, wow, I got lost for a minute. Don't worry, it wasn't like in a sexual way, but if it was, who cares? Don't judge me. I was just more remembering that night, which is really special in a lot of ways. Anyhow, I was in this bar and they were playing, the DJ, who was like a fat bald guy, interestingly enough, was playing Blue Highway. And I was like, all right. So Blue Highway is not the deepest cut, but it's a beautiful song, and I love that it ends, and then it just keeps going, and play. Like, Steve Stevens, come on. Don't fuck with that Billy Idol guitar player. That motherfucker is legendary for a reason. That ray gun sound, ray gun on a guitar, come on. All right. So that's Billy Idol. Then I shut Billy Idol off, and I was like, well, I wanted to wait until I drove for a little while to see if I hate doing voices like that. I wanted to wait until I was driving for a little while to where I had a little bit more to say, and instead I just turned the camera on and here I am. Just kidding. I want to be positive today. What do I have to share with you? Well, you know I'm moving, right? I'm moving to Michigan. God, this view, I hate to turn the camera around, but look at those fucking mountains. I can't say I'm not going to miss the beauty of Utah. I will. Oh, God, the fucking heat in here. What can I tell you that's interesting? Hashtag Ohio Chernobyl, for one, on Twitter. You know what? I think I really only have one thing to offer right now. I've been making a list. Not checking it twice. Check it several times. It's just on 2 3x5 cards. And one of them is, you know, I pretend I'm thinking like this is the last night of my life, okay? And then so the cards are like, what are some things I wish I would have done more of? And right now the list is like fucking, spending time with my family, playing music, working on my own music, spending time with animals, meaningful social interaction, listening to more music, appreciating art more, stuff like that. And don't go thinking that I don't spend enough time doing those things. Let me just leave it at that. But those are the things I think that really kind of matter and are worthwhile. And so then I, of course, also have a card that says things I wish I would have spent less time doing. And it's, you know, you can take a guess, but like worrying, being crippled by fear, hating myself, resenting others. Fear really covers a lot of bases, but there's a lot of resentment against others. And obsessive thinking, oh my God. Level of obsessive thinking that I take it to is like, you don't even want to know. Worrying about money, trying to make money. Again, so these are just these two lists. I'm not encouraging you to do the same, because you live however you do, and that works for you, and that's awesome. But it's pretty meaningful to me to have these cards, because I'm sorry, you get past a certain age, and you hear the old motherfuckers talk about it like, God, time just, wow, this road's kind of scary. You hear the old motherfuckers talk about it, time flies. And that, God, is that true? Like, a year goes by like nothing. And once you really get in touch with your own mortality, again, for those of you who think you're going to hit the jackpot and live forever in eternal bliss, wish I could think like you, really do, because that sounds serene and promising and hopeful. But at the same time, I see people who believe that kind of stuff kind of making a mess of their lives. And wow, I was listening loud. Shit. I got earplugs in. I was listening loud. Don't worry about it. Why is the camera coming on again on this trip? Let me fix my hair. Let me adjust my skirt. Let me fix my shirt. Let me get that quirk. I'm doing that song wrong. That's a good song though. God, I've been hearing some really good new music lately. New music meaning shit I discovered on Spotify, not pop songs that come on the radio. The last time anything came on the radio that I was like, holy shit, and go ahead and make fun of me. 212 by Azalea Banks, masterpiece. Stupid Ho by Nicki Minaj, yes. Stupid Ho by Nicki Minaj. I Think You're Freaky by DeAntword, and not that that came on the radio, but that video is pretty big. I hate to say it, but Lord Royals, when I came back from Jordan, I think, I remember I was in the cab going back from the airport to my apartment in Brooklyn, which is what we're about to talk about, and I remember just being like, holy shit, this is fucking great. I still think that Lord Royals is a great song. Lord's got a couple good songs, not like Sigrid. Oh my God, Sigrid. Some of that shit. Head on Fire by Sigrid. If you haven't heard Head on Fire by Sigrid, S-I-G-R-I-D, go ahead and listen to it. And I also really like It Gets Dark. It Gets Dark. The name of that song, I'm getting goosebumps right now. It Gets Dark and Head on Fire by Sigrid are just so fucking good. All right. So I was listening to, you know, various Spotify things. Again, this link that you've heard about, which... Is this going to be a separate video? Maybe it will be. Maybe I'll capitalize on that. You know, capitalize. You know, when you capitalize on something, we think about making money, right? Actually, I don't personally. When I say let me capitalize on that, but it kind of means to make money, as far as I know. Another thing I'll have to look up. You know what I just wanted to share is, I was listening to a song of mine from 2012 from the School album. It's called What Am I Gonna Do? A pretty depressing track, but a really cool track. It's got this guy Keith, can't remember his last name, on drums. He's really good. And the song itself, I don't know if it's sad or good or bad or what. You know, I have my own opinion on it, but God, I still feel that way. I felt that way since I was a child, and I still feel that way. What am I gonna do? It's not gonna get any better. What am I gonna do? It feels like I've been here forever. I guess I'm gonna be here until the end of time. I guess I'm gonna die here. I guess I'm gonna die. So that's my song, What Am I Gonna Do? I started thinking about it, and I was listening to some other stuff. By the way, that was Beta Band, Space Beetle, that you just heard. If you don't know Beta Band, then you need to go check out Beta Band, because they're so fucking good. While you're at it, check out Elbow's catalog. Don't put on one Elbow song, like their biggest song, and be like, I don't like Elbow. And if you hate his voice, fine. But if you want to go listen to Elbow, really listen to Elbow. You know what? Just go listen to The Seldom Seen Kid. It's not my favorite album, but it's the one they won the Mercury Prize for. Mercury Award. I think they call it a prize in England. And it is a true masterpiece and has some of the most beautiful songs ever written on it. But Elbow's so good, and I'm bringing up Elbow because their singer, Guy Garvey, has, by the way, I'm sorry, their singer, greatest living lyricist, Guy Garvey, and I mean that. Billy Corgan used to be pretty high on my list too as far as lyricists go, because God, he's good. But Guy Garvey's, to me, the best living lyricist, even though Elbow's last album was shit. Should I say it was shite, since they're fucking English? So Guy Garvey's got one solo album, kind of did his own Jarvis Cocker type thing, and it's called Courting the Squall, like dating the squall, which is great. And he's great, and the fucking solo record is incredible. 70% of the way. 30% of it I really don't give a fuck about, but Juggernaut is great, Harder Edges is great, Angela's Eyes? Angela? Ugh, I'm losing the title. But anyhow, I started thinking about New York. I thought about how I felt when I was in New York in my 20s. And you know what? There was nothing like it. There hasn't been anything like it since. Oh, but what about when you lived in LA? Completely different. Completely different. What about when you moved to Utah? Entirely different. What about when you moved back to Michigan that time? Entirely different. You went to New York and you hated it. You made 3 videos about how much you hated it. I know, that's now. I did hate it then. That was all sincere. But you know, when you're in your 20s, if you've never lived anywhere, which I hadn't, I lived with my dad, my dad's house, my parents' house, and eventually my dad's house until age 23, and I just moved to Brooklyn. Wow, it changed my fucking life in ways that I won't be able to properly express right now using words. But there was the beat and the pulse of possibility all around you in that place, in that era. I could have still been a really successful rock star. I could have still been a big, recording studio music producer. You could argue that I am. It just doesn't look like I thought it would look. But you know what? Do things ever look like you thought they would? You know? It's funny because I had a pretty bad periodontic cleaning a little while ago, and I was talking to my dad about it. He was like, we agreed. We were like, it's always worse in your mind. It's always worse. You always build it up in your mind, and it's always worse. You know what? It was worse. It was, in person, the actual procedure was worse than anything I had in my mind. It was a fucking nightmare. I couldn't breathe through my nose, and you can't breathe through your fucking mouth because there's water filling up in there. Meanwhile, they got this fucking thing in there. It's a nightmare. Your mouth is numb. I had almost over 20 shots in my mouth. Fuck that, man. All right, so New York City in my 20s, and I say New York City, not just Brooklyn, because I spent as much time as I could in Manhattan. I explored the Bronx and the Queens a little bit. Staten Island, not so much, although I certainly have been there. Been in Steven Seagal's old house. Igor knows about that. He was there. But there was this, again, I say the beat and the pulse of possibility all around you. And that's really true. It's not true now. You get past a certain age, you have enough failed relationships, enough failed projects, enough disappointment to where your enthusiasm for everything gets fucking blunted. And if you're my age, I'm 37, I'll be 38 next month. If you're my age and you don't feel that way, come talk to me. I would love to know how you maintain your optimism and your joyousness. Because for me, it's kind of gone. It's just, I'm so fucking jaded, lacking in enthusiasm. That's what jaded means for somebody who doesn't. We all know what jaded means, but that's generally kind of what it means, lacking in enthusiasm. You've been fucking stultified by life hammering you in the fucking face too many times. So, yeah, New York, and I always want to quantify it. I'm like, oh yeah, I was really happy. I wasn't happy, by the way. I was fucking depressed. Even though in retrospect, I don't think about how bad I felt. I think that's, for me at least, that's generally true of being depressed or sad or even lonely, is that it's hell when you're experiencing it, but I don't really think I give a shit about it anymore, to the extent that I don't even think I can remember what it felt like, you know? But God, I was sad and lonely and depressed and had a lot going on in my mind. And meanwhile, I was trying to carve out a career working professionally as a music producer, which I did successfully, which is in its own right pretty remarkable, and that's very challenging to do. And that's not bragging, I'm just trying to state that objectively. That's an objective truth. It's fucking hard to make money in art. Whoa, that guy really almost hit the fucking barrier. It's hard to make money in art, period. And it's really hard to make money. I mean, it's making your own shit, that's a whole other ballgame. I'm just talking about if you want to do anything and pay your bills playing your guitar or being behind a fucking computer screen or a mixing console or whatever. Very difficult. You need luck. You need a very specific, you need a Liam Neeson style skill set, training. You need gumption. What does that mean? It means you show up when you say you're going to show up and you do what you say you're going to do. You trying to get over it, fuckwad? Bad idea. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'll let any motherfucker over, but it's like, come on, you're right in front of me. And you need to be in the right place in the right time. Anyhow, what was I talking about that? So with New York and me looking back on it, just remembering, that's what's funny. I don't remember how bad I felt, but I remember how good I felt, which kind of runs contrary to this evolutionary idea that bad experiences are way more impactful memory-wise than good ones. For example, you remember like, oh my God, this hellish experience we had at this restaurant, it was a fucking nightmare. You'll probably never forget it. And all the good ones, they just don't have that same weight to them. But I'm just telling you, in my 20s in New York, there is nothing like it. There's nothing like it. And I say the beat and the pulse and the possibility. It's just everywhere I went was so new and exciting and unknown and cool and interesting and scary and fascinating and alive. It was so fucking alive, you know? And again, that's not what my experience is like there now. And don't go thinking that I was like bawling in my 20s. I absolutely was not. I had saved up a pretty substantial amount of money, I think between 10 and 12 grand when I moved there, which in 23-year-old me era, that was a lot of money. That's probably closer to like 20 grand now. So I had that, and then I started doing these 0% APR credit cards and building a studio. But forget about that. We're talking about the feelings. God, I met so many people. There were so many cool people in New York. There's some really shitty ones too, but it's like any big city. There's so many high-minded people. Or to quote Yogurt Belly, he just says in LA, there's so many fucking cool people to meet there. And God, it's true. It really is. So even though I find myself nostalgically longing for New York City, I do realize I'm not so stupid or idealistic that I think that I could just go live there and I'd relive that. It doesn't work that way. Have you driven to your old elementary school? Have you driven by your old house? That's all that's left is nostalgia vapors. Not even a fucking liquid, just vapors of nostalgia. But they're good enough to get you high. They get you high and you think about how great it is.